Hi there, welcome back to another small ramble with me, writer and mental health advocate Tobe Allen, also one half of the BARROW Podcast, the show I do with my mum, where we talk about divorced, dysfunctional families and mental illness while writing our memoir together. In a recent one of these, I talked about my sort of fallout with music, which also got me thinking. And I've also, we're at this point in the show and in the memoir where we're sort of more concentrated on my part of the story in the back half of this year. But it got me thinking about like when I was a younger person and the world that I was a part of. Graduated high school in 2006. For reference, born in 1988. And, you know, Facebook sort of came out the year after I finished school. People were on things like MySpace and MSN Messenger and all sorts of other things before then. But, mobile phones were still, they weren't smartphones just yet, didn't have those in high school. Social media really wasn't a thing in high school. It was still tentpole, summer blockbusters and all that sort of stuff. So mainstream media was still well and truly intact. But, it was sort of post 9/11 through school, a lot more paranoia in the world, lots of sort of safety stuff. Participation awards became a thing. And when I left school and I went to university, my first year at university, 2007, the arts faculty at the university I went to was still really well and truly intact with like, I don't know how many full-time staff they had. I want to say 20 or 30 in a single faculty. It was huge, and the options you had for courses and all this sort of stuff. There was a real presence of art and a real connection to it. And that all changed very rapidly. I was relating to my disconnection with music and following my friend around to gigs. And I'm starting to think now that actually I can sort of see how his depression and perhaps some of the things that led him to take his own life might have had to do with this, like this kind of changing world that we were in. In 2008, here in Australia, smoking was banned from pubs. So, and I know that in Sydney, I think that was around the same time they had the lockout laws, which meant, putting bouncers on the doors of, it killed the live music scene in Sydney. That's what, was being argued. They tried to institute that in Melbourne. There was seemingly more pushback in Melbourne. I don't know whether there was more pushback, but there was a lot of pushback. It didn't really take effect in Melbourne quite in the same way it did in Sydney. But there was also, like, in my neighborhood, this wave of gentrification, and things were really changing. And in 2008, maybe 2009, the arts school got gutted at my university. I want to say it went from like 20 or 30 full-time staff down to about 6 in the faculty that I was in. And I remember just courses just getting gouged out, like they just closed so much down. And there was this real kind of like bureaucratic commercialization of everything seemed to be really, really setting in and making life for people who wanted to live and be creative and go out and drink and smoke and have fun. Like it all seemed to be moving in a very different direction all of a sudden. And these preoccupations with safety and, quite sort of bureaucratic seemingly kind of language started popping up everywhere. And there were all these little funny little rules about stuff. And like, I remember in Melbourne, it was so bizarre with the smoking, because it was like smoking got banned from pubs, but then you could smoke in the courtyard and you could still get a meal, but then you couldn't be smoking where you ate food at a certain point. And then they divided the smoking section into where you could eat and where you could smoke. And it just started becoming really, really like very precious. Society became very precious. And all the while, people were getting these devices in their hands, these phones and social media, where they could voice their opinion. And so suddenly everybody was doing this. And I don't know, I mean, I really miss the world that died just as I entered adulthood, really. Because I was really excited about that world. And I feel like it's been, 15 years going on, 16, 17, 18, 19 years, 18, 19 years now of increasing unfun. And I think this sort of explains my own kind of sadness. Like, I watched a lot of things creep in at university. Like, I watched lots of talented people lose their jobs. I watched the immersion, the coming of what became sort of like woke ideology, identity politics, sort of rampant liberalism that seemed quite mean and bureaucratic a lot of the time. Not all progressive things are bad, but one of the funniest things was that I went to university absolutely certain that I was left-wing, and left university being told I was a conservative, which is kind of like a horrible experience, actually. When you don't feel conservative at all, but you are kind of labeled and branded different ways. And that was also inherently ironic and irritating, because it was happening during a time when apparently you could be whatever you wanted. Like, identity was like a kind of a choose your own adventure. Like, I'm going to be this today, or I'm going to be that today. Here are my pronouns, whatever. And God bless, like, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. I don't care. But it seemed really funny to me that half the population got to do that, and then the other half of the population had their identity ascribed to them, and they were told who and what they were. That always sort of irritated me. um, but I guess I'm just sort of thinking about like what's been lost, and like the human element that's been lost, and I think I'm profoundly sad. I think I'm more sad than I even understand, because I left school and entered university believing I was going on an adventure. And I was really, really excited. And I'm telling you, it was like overnight. My friend died. Pub and bar culture kind of got, sanitized. Arts at university got gouged. And there was just this kind of cultural decline that I've witnessed over the last, as I say, about 18, 19 years, that I think has really contributed to my depression. Like, I just feel sad, like really profoundly sad. And I was thinking about that in relation to my friend who passed away, that I knew at that time that he was seeing a lot of this stuff and getting really agitated about it. Like, you know, he felt like people were getting way too precious and the world was becoming, like this bureaucratic hell, and he really just wanted to have fun, and why couldn't it be easier? And, you know, some of that was naive, some of that was, and I think, you know, there was some stuff that he was definitely wrong about. I mean, at the same time, he was 19 years old. 20 years old. He was 20 when he passed. But I definitely feel like the world I live in now is not the one I thought I was going to be living in. And I was excited to be part of the world, and I'm not anymore. Or that I just increasingly became less and less excited, and less happy and at peace on like a large cultural scale, like in like a bigger context. Like, man, this stuff is all affecting me. I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I'm less happy. I'm less happy. I'm less happy. And a lot of that's on me, and things I need to, you know, do for myself and correct perhaps and whatever. But I think there's also like some real truth to that, of like, you know, you don't get to pick what moment in history you are living through. And it has seemed like a pretty unfun one for a while. Like, I, as someone who was never interested in technology, like communications technology, I'm just like, the internet never interested me, and yet here I am on it. I don't really like that fact. I'm using it now, which is liberating in some ways, but overall, yeah, this just really isn't my jam. But I am enjoying doing this, so, you know, that's fine. So that's okay. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that your mood, your mental health, whatever, is so much worse than you ever imagined it would be or could be? Do you think that like the world just went in a direction that you never predicted because you were just kind of like not interested in that stuff? Like, what? We're doing this? Huh? What is this? I definitely feel like that. Definitely feel like I don't really get it. And man, I miss fun. I miss trouble too. Like the little scrapes you could get into where once upon a time they didn't decimate your entire existence. I don't know what that means. Anyway, leave a comment maybe. If you like this, you find it interesting, you'll definitely enjoy the Barrow podcast. So check it out. Links and further information can be found in the description to today's video, as well as on the homepage to this YouTube channel. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.